Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. The laughter was still echoing when I saw her eyes narrow, just for a second, sharp as glass. We were standing by the grill at Gavin's backyard birthday party, red plastic cups in hand, the scent of smoked ribs heavy in the air. She had just turned me into the punchline of her little social performance. And she didn't think I'd fire back. I mean, Trevor's always working on one of his little hobby projects, Natalie said, with that fake warm laugh she saves for when there's an audience. Last week it was a wine label. This week, what is it? Tiny houses for squirrels. The group chuckled. Someone actually spit their beer. I kept my eyes on the coals. Well, I said, still smiling, at least I've got a job. Silence. Then, laughter again. Real this time. One of Gavin's buddies let out a surprised bark. Even Ginny, Gavin's wife, covered her mouth in stunned amusement. Natalie's laugh froze halfway out of her throat. Her cheeks flushed pink, not from the Georgia heat. She blinked like she hadn't heard me right. Excuse me. I didn't miss a beat. I just mean, being unemployed gives you lots of time to critique people who are actually trying things. I didn't raise my voice, didn't step forward. I stayed calm, casual, but my words landed hard. Gavin mumbled something about checking the brisket. People scattered, finding excuses to disappear into smaller, safer conversations. The air thinned out, like it knew a storm was circling. Natalie stared at me, smiling too wide. You know what? I think you've had enough punch. Oh, I'm sober, I replied. Crystal clear. Her eyes darted, scanning for someone to rescue her. But the party had moved on, quickly. All she had left was me. She leaned in just a little, dropped her voice. Real classy, Trevor. Embarrassing your wife in front of our friends? Funny, I whispered back. You didn't seem worried about that 2 minutes ago. Her nostrils flared. Before she could speak again, I stepped away, letting the silence swallow her up. The rest of the party passed in a blur of handshakes and awkward smiles. But every time I looked over, I caught her jaw set tight, like she was chewing the inside of her cheek raw. That was the moment it cracked. Right there. Not with yelling, not with drama, but with one line she couldn't laugh off. I used to think we were just in a rough patch. A little too much distance. Too many unsaid things. But that moment, that night, that was when I saw it for what it was. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her target. And the life we'd built, that comfortable, middle-class thing with matching towels and Home Depot weekends, it was already starting to collapse. The party had thinned out by the time I drifted to the far side of the backyard, away from the tiki torches and Bluetooth speaker. The kids had gone home with their sugar crashes and balloon swords. The remaining adults clung to their folding chairs, nursing drinks and slow conversations under strings of cafe lights. I was halfway through a watered-down cocktail when I heard her voice, low, warm, edged with that kind of charm that doesn't try too hard. That was brave, she said, or suicidal, depending on how well you sleep next to your wife. I turned. Riley. I'd seen her earlier, talking with Gavin and Jenny, wearing a navy wrap dress and the kind of smile that felt like it had history behind it. Not performative, just grounded. Riley, right? I asked. She nodded, stepping closer. Friend of a friend. I know Jenny through work, and I've seen you at a couple get-togethers, though I'm guessing you don't remember. I've got a goldfish memory when it comes to parties, I said, gesturing to the cup in my hand. Unless I'm being publicly roasted by my own wife. That usually sticks. Her smile deepened, a little crooked. I noticed. She really laid into you tonight. I gave a half shrug. Yeah, she's got a gift. She's got a knife she sharpens with compliments, Riley said bluntly. That made me laugh. It slipped out before I could catch it, and it felt weird, how good that laugh felt. Like someone had opened a window. You're not wrong, I said. She tilted her head. I don't mean to pry, but you look like a man who's been biting his tongue for a long time. I didn't respond at first, just stared out at the shadows of the garden, the branches dancing gently in the breeze. Then I said, sometimes it feels like living with Natalie is like trying to reason with a tornado in heels. Riley exhaled a soft laugh, not mocking, just recognizing the absurdity in all of it. A slow jazz tune floated in from the speaker. Soft trumpet, mellow rhythm. I recognized it. Chet Baker. Riley held out a hand. Dance. I blinked. Seriously? Why not, she said. There's grass, there's stars, and you look like you could use a reset. I hesitated, but then I took her hand. We stepped into the open patch of lawn beneath the patio string lights. No one was watching. The people who mattered were halfway to tipsy or locked in deep conversation. This dance, it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. She led gently, not taking over, just guiding us into a simple sway. "Do you always absorb her digs like that?" she asked after a few beats. I looked up. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean. You take the hit, smile through it, and make it easier for everyone else. It's like watching someone apologize for getting hit by a car." I let out a quiet chuckle. "It's easier than explaining why I don't leave." She studied me, not judging, just curious. "And why haven't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't know yet. Or maybe I just hadn't let myself say it out loud. Instead, I said, "You're very observant for a friend of a friend." She smirked. "I'm also divorced. Spent 2 years married to a man who used sarcasm like a scalpel. The healing starts when you stop laughing along with it." We swayed in silence for a bit. The lights twinkled above us like lazy fireflies. Someone popped a beer tab in the distance. The trumpet kept crooning. Riley leaned in slightly and said, almost in a whisper, "You deserve more than being the setup to someone else's punchline." I swallowed. The words hit harder than they should have. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," I murmured. She smiled again, softer this time. "Because you know I see it. And you're tired of pretending no one does." The song drifted toward its final note. I stepped back slightly, letting our hands fall away. "Thanks," I said, voice low. "For the dance?" she asked. "For noticing." She nodded. Sometimes that's all people need to feel human again. I watched her walk back toward the deck, her silhouette fading into the golden haze of backyard light. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. The moment we stepped into the condo, the air changed. Not because anything was wrong, yet, but because it always did. Everything in that space was curated to perfection. The kind of place where pillows were fluffed by instinct, and the wine glasses matched the marble countertops. Natalie had designed every inch herself. Modern, clean, cold. It felt like living in a catalog. Impressive on the surface, but never warm. She kicked off her heels before I could even lock the door, her earrings already in her hand. "So," she said casually, not looking at me as she walked into the kitchen. "Who was the redhead?" There it was. I didn't answer right away. Just loosened my tie and took my time hanging up my blazer. The air conditioner hummed softly. Our dog, well, Natalie's dog, didn't even bother greeting us. He'd learned to stay out of the way when tension walked through the door first. "She's a friend of Jenny's," I finally replied. "Riley, right? Riley." Natalie's voice dripped with casual judgment. "And how long have you two known each other?" I opened the fridge. Tonight was our first actual conversation. Natalie leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed. "You seemed pretty comfortable dancing with a total stranger." I pulled out a bottle of water, cracked the cap. She asked. I said yes. Her eyebrows arched. "That easy, huh?" I took a long sip before answering. She didn't criticize my life choices, so I figured I owed her a dance. Natalie went still, like a statue that had just been insulted. "Oh, that's cute," she said. "You know, it's amazing how bold you get after a few people laugh at your little comebacks." I shrugged, walking past her. "And it's amazing how fragile you get when the spotlight turns back." She followed. "Are you seriously trying to make me the villain here? You made yourself the villain when you took a shot at me in front of 30 people. It was a joke, Trevor." "No, it was a pattern." Her face tightened. "You're twisting things." "No," I said quietly. "I'm just finally saying them out loud." She scoffed. "Please. You danced with her to punish me. Don't pretend it was noble." I chuckled dry. I danced with her because, for 3 minutes, I didn't feel like I was disappointing someone by existing. That stopped her. She stared at me, arms folded, jaw clenched like she was deciding whether to yell or cry. And then, without a word, she spun on her heel and stormed down the hall. The bedroom door slammed so hard, a picture frame on the wall rattled. I stood there for a while, let the silence settle in. It was funny. Natalie always filled our space with beautiful things. But when the words ran dry, when the anger boiled and cooled and left just air between us, this place felt colder than outside in January. I turned off the kitchen light, sat on the edge of the couch, and stared out the window. She'd wake up early tomorrow, act like nothing happened. Maybe she'd make a green smoothie and play something upbeat on her phone. She was good at erasing nights like these. But I wasn't. That crackling silence. It wasn't just tension. It was the echo of something dying slow. And tonight, I wasn't rushing to resuscitate it. I woke up before the sun, not because I had to, but because sleep refused to stay. The apartment was still. That kind of silence you only get just before the city stirs. I padded into the kitchen barefoot, the tile cool against my skin. No sign of Natalie. The bedroom door was still closed, probably locked. Her way of declaring a truce by withdrawal. I made coffee. Strong. No sugar. Just the bitter kind that wakes your blood. As I stood at the counter, sipping, I pulled my laptop toward me. Muscle memory took over. Passwords, browser tabs, finance apps. It wasn't a conscious decision, just something I felt pulled to do. And then, as I stared at the numbers glowing on the screen, it hit me. I'd never looked at them like this before. Not as a man calculating rent, or planning a vacation she would later veto, but as someone asking a different question entirely. Could I walk away? And not just in theory, but literally, legally, fully? I scrolled, tapped, dug through years of spreadsheets and statements. I'd always been the planner. Natalie had taste, style, instinct, but I was the one who built the bones of our life. I stared at the totals, let the numbers sink in. The answer was yes. I could leave. I could survive. More than that, I could breathe. I don't know what shifted. Maybe Riley's words from last night were still echoing. Maybe it was Natalie's door slam that finally made it real. But I wasn't sad. I wasn't panicked. I was calm. By 8:30, I had a Zoom appointment with a lawyer I found through a recommendation from Gavin. Quiet, discreet, professional. His name was Alan Reeves, and he wore glasses that looked too small for his face. Uncontested, you think? He asked after I walked him through everything. I nodded. If I offer her half, she'll probably take it without much fuss. She's prideful, but she's not sentimental. Alan tapped at his keyboard. Then it's simple. I'll have documents drafted by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? I asked, surprised. He glanced over the screen. You've already done the hard part. You're just giving it a name now. We ended the call. I closed the laptop. The rest of the day passed in a strange haze of detachment. Natalie stayed in the bedroom until noon, then emerged wordless, phone in hand, eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses, though we were indoors. We didn't talk. Not about the night before. Not about anything. And the next day, when the papers were emailed to me, I printed them quietly. I slid them into a manila folder and set them on the kitchen island. She found them there that evening. Picked them up like a catalog. No gasps. No screaming. Just a quiet, almost bored, okay. She sat down with a pen and signed each page without a single question. No huffs. No icy remarks. Just initials, ink, and silence. When she handed the folder back to me, her expression was unreadable. That's it? I asked. Natalie looked at me like I'd asked if it was going to rain. You want it out. I'm giving it to you. Half of everything, I said, just to clarify. She gave a small shrug. I'm not here to fight over furniture. There was something off in her tone. Not peace. Not pain. Just vacancy. Like this marriage had already ended for her too. She was just waiting for me to catch up. She stood, smoothed her blouse, and said, You'll have your space by next week. And just like that, she was gone again. Bedroom door. Closed. I stood in that perfectly lit kitchen with the folder in hand, surrounded by things that were ours, but no longer felt like mine. No tears. No guilt. Just the eerie quiet of a final chapter. And yet, in that stillness, I felt lighter, like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. A week later, I was standing in the sunlight, one hand resting on the hood of a brand new graphite gray Mercedes G-Class. The paint sparkled like wet stone, and the engine purred with a kind of quiet power that felt unapologetic. I'd never bought anything on impulse. Not once in my adult life. Every big purchase had been a negotiation, a spreadsheet, a justification. Natalie had a way of making luxury feel like guilt in disguise, unless it was her choosing it. But this wasn't for her. This was for the man who just survived a decade of slow erasure and walked out with his soul still intact. I slid behind the wheel, wrapped my hands around the leather steering wheel, and let the hum of the engine settle into my bones. When I pulled up to Riley's apartment, she was already waiting outside. She wore a soft blue blouse, light wind catching her hair as she spotted the car and smiled. Wide, open, genuine. She stepped closer, raised an eyebrow. Okay, so either you're having a midlife crisis, or you finally gave yourself permission to live. I laughed. Little bit of column A, little bit of column B. Riley ran her hand gently along the car door before I opened it for her. I'll allow it. You earned this. Wait until you see the view, I said, pulling back onto the road. Tonight's about high places. The rooftop restaurant sat above a hotel on Peachtree, draped in string lights and framed by the Atlanta skyline. Our table was tucked near the edge, a blanket of city glow beneath us. It felt like sitting at the edge of something new, something sharp, something clean. We ordered cocktails first. Her, a lemony spritz that matched her laugh. Me, something bourbon-based that I didn't bother pretending to understand. So, she said as we clinked glasses. 1 week divorced. How does it feel? Like my lungs work again, I said, only half joking. She nodded slowly. It's weird, isn't it? The first time you realize peace doesn't have to come in small doses. I keep waiting for the guilt to sneak up, I admitted. And does it? Not yet. She grinned. Then stop expecting it. Sometimes walking away is the brave thing. I looked at her for a long moment. There was no performance in her, no hidden script. Just honesty, worn casually, like a denim jacket. Do you always say exactly what people need to hear? I asked. Only when they need to hear it. Dinner was light. Salmon, grilled veggies, a shared dessert that neither of us really touched, but pretended to savor because it bought us more time. The conversation dipped into childhood stories, bad job interviews, favorite movies we were embarrassed to love. It was the kind of talk that flowed without strategy. At one point, I realized we'd been laughing for minutes straight. About a date, she went on where the guy brought his mom, unironically, because she loves seafood too. And you stayed? I asked between gasps. I was 25 and desperate to believe it was endearing, she said, covering her face. Our laughter drifted over the skyline like music. The check came too soon. I reached for it before she could protest. She just smiled at me. We walked toward the elevator slowly. Neither of us said anything right away. When the door slid open, she stepped in, then turned and looked up at me. This was good, she said. You look different tonight. New car glow. I offered. She shook her head. No, it's not the car. It's your eyes. They stopped scanning the room for her. That one hit me deep. Yeah, I said softly. I think they're finally seeing something worth looking at. She didn't blush. She didn't joke it off. She just held my gaze and whispered, good. And we rode the elevator down into a world that, for the first time in a long time, didn't feel so heavy. It was just a photo. One click. One sunset. Riley and I had pulled over on the edge of the Chattahoochee trails just as the sun dipped low behind the tree line. The light hit the Mercedes just right, graphite shimmering like it had something to say. Riley leaned against the passenger door, smiling in that quiet, natural way she did when no one was watching. I set the timer and leaned beside her, my hand just brushing hers. I didn't think much of it at the time, just a snapshot of a moment that felt peaceful. When we got home, I posted it. No hashtags, no filters, just a simple caption. New roads, new chapters. I didn't expect a flood of comments. But within 10 minutes, it began. Gavin, looking good, brother. That ride is clean. Jenny, finally. That smile suits you. Mark is from college, dude. You never drove anything nicer than a Corolla. Love to see it. My cousin Lisa. Who's the girl? Eyes we like her. Riley, just a single black heart emoji. I scrolled through them, smiling, liking each one. It was strange. After years of being publicly neutral, always careful, always polished, this post felt like breathing. Then I saw it. Buried under the thread of celebration, right beneath Lisa's comment. Natalie, nice car. No emoji. No exclamation point. Just 3 words. Neutral on the surface, but soaked in something sharper. I stared at it for a moment. She hadn't messaged. She hadn't called. She hadn't replied to the divorce documents with any emotion. But this was her way of slipping back in. Not a confrontation. Not even a question. Just a seed, dropped in plain sight, meant to sprout doubt. I clicked the 3 dots next to the comment. Delete. Gone. No response. No message. No acknowledgement. Not today. This chapter didn't have space for footnotes written in resentment. I tossed my phone on the table and leaned back against the couch. Riley was in the kitchen, humming some soft tune I didn't recognize, barefoot, rinsing 2 glasses. She peeked around the corner. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, smiling. I just deleted a ghost. She smirked. Good. Ghosts don't deserve front row seats. The next morning started like any other. I got to the office early, an old habit from my startup days that stuck, even now. The building downtown had that familiar scent of copier toner and too strong coffee, the kind of quiet that let you hear your own shoes echo in the hallway. Peaceful. Productive. Until it wasn't. I was sitting at my desk reviewing a new proposal when I heard it. Raised voices. Distant at first, then louder, then unmistakable. My name. Where is he? Trevor. I know he works here. Get him down here right now. I froze. For a split second, I thought maybe I'd imagined it. But then came the rapid footsteps. Heels clicking, muffled shouts, someone trying to calm her down. I stood slowly, heart thudding, walked toward the glass wall that overlooked the lobby 2 floors down. And there she was. Natalie. Hair undone. Mascara streaked. Jacket slipping off one shoulder like she'd sprinted here without finishing whatever meltdown she started at home. She was shouting at the receptionist now. Poor Kaylee, who looked about 2 seconds from calling for backup. You tell him to come down. He's parading around in my money like he earned it. That's my car, my settlement, my life. Heads turned. Phone stopped ringing. The whole floor dropped into silence as everyone watched it unfold like a bad soap opera. I took the stairs. Quietly. Calmly. Each step echoed harder than the last. When I reached the lobby, Natalie turned before I said a word. Her eyes locked onto mine like laser sights. There he is, she spat. The big man. Posting your little fairy tale photos with your new girlfriend, riding around in a car you bought with my money? Natalie, I said gently, lowering my voice. This is not the place. Oh, so now you care about professionalism, she snapped. You didn't seem too worried about optics when you deleted my comment like I don't exist. Because it wasn't a conversation, I replied. It was bait. Her voice cracked. You don't get to erase me, Trevor. I gave you 10 years. I gave you everything. I nodded at Kaylee, who was frozen behind the desk. Call security, please. Natalie laughed bitterly. Security? Seriously? You're having me thrown out now? You're trespassing, I said, my voice as calm as I could manage. You made your choices, and now you need to leave. She stepped closer, her voice trembling, not with fear, but fury. You think this is over? You think I'll just fade into the background while you play house with some off-brand yoga girl who thinks your podcast ideas are genius? I didn't move, didn't blink. Go home, Natalie. And then the guards arrived. 2 of them, David and Marcus, the usual guys from the front entrance. They approached slowly, like someone might be holding a live wire. Ma'am, David said carefully, we're going to have to ask you to leave the building. She laughed again, wild now, mascara making raccoon trails down her cheeks. You're kicking me out? Me? I was married to him. Ma'am, Marcus began, but she cut him off. No, don't ma'am me. You know what he's doing? He's buying cars and posting beach selfies while I'm stuck figuring out how to freelance my way through a divorce settlement. You took half? I said, my voice suddenly firmer. You didn't get blindsided. You signed. You walked away. I walked away because you made me feel like nothing, she yelled. David moved gently between us. Let's step outside, okay? I want everyone here to know, Natalie said, twisting toward the small crowd that had gathered near the hallway. He didn't win because he was better. He won because I gave up first. And with that, she let them escort her out. She didn't resist. Just burned. The doors closed behind her. The moment ended. And I stood there, surrounded by the awkward quiet of people pretending not to watch, pretending not to care. Kaylee cleared her throat. Should I call HR? I shook my head. No, I'll handle it. I walked back to my office, numb, not angry, not even embarrassed, just stunned. Not because she showed up, but because even now, with all the damage done, Natalie still couldn't tell the difference between losing something and having it taken from you. She hadn't lost me. She'd pushed until there was nothing left to hold on to. And now, all she had left were echoes. And this scene, was her trying to shout over the silence she created. The vineyard sat just outside Atlanta, tucked behind a row of sycamores that turned gold this time of year. Gavin and Ginny hosted their annual wine tasting event there, something between a casual gathering and a soft excuse to dress up and pretend we knew anything about tannins. Riley and I arrived just after 5. She wore a flowing burgundy dress that caught the breeze and a pair of boots she called her country chic armor. I just knew she looked like she belonged there, laughing, glowing in the afternoon sun. We were handed glasses at the gate and a tasting card with scribbled notes about cherry undertones and oak finish. You realize we're both going to pretend to taste these things, right? She whispered. Obviously, I grinned. That's the whole sport. We wandered through the crowd of familiar faces. Gavin was telling a story by the cheese table. Jenny waved from under a shaded pergola. For once, everything felt light. My chest didn't feel tight. My smile wasn't staged. Riley leaned in close, her voice soft. You're glowing, by the way. Did someone swap out your stress batteries? I chuckled. Might have been the company upgrade. She bumped her glass gently against mine. To upgrades, then. We clinked. Later, as the sun dipped low and the sky blushed violet, we stood off to the side, watching the lights begin to flicker on around the vineyard. A quiet jazz quartet played in the background. I felt her hand slide into mine. Hey, she said. You okay? More than okay. You sure? I turned toward her. I think I'm finally somewhere I actually want to be. She smiled, eyes warm. Good. Then, without hesitation, I leaned in. Our lips met. Not rushed, not cautious. Just right. Like the punctuation mark to a sentence we'd both been writing in our own quiet ways. And then, unbelievable. The word cracked the moment like a stone on glass. I turned. Riley's hand was still in mine. Standing 10 feet away, jaw clenched, arms folded, was Natalie. She looked out of place. Tight white blouse, dark jeans, heels sinking into the soft grass. Her hair was flawless, her expression anything but. Wow, she said, loud enough for heads to turn. You couldn't wait 6 weeks before playing house with someone new? Conversations died around us. Glasses paused midair. Jenny's smile froze. Riley kept her hand in mine, but didn't speak. Natalie's eyes locked on her. You really think you get to walk in, flip your hair, and take what was mine? Riley raised an eyebrow, calm but direct. I didn't take anything. He left what no longer fit. That struck. Natalie's breath caught. She blinked fast. Oh, please, she spat. You knew exactly what you were doing. Smiling at him at that party, dancing like some. Enough, I said quietly. Natalie's gaze snapped to me. No, it's not enough. You don't just erase a decade, Trevor. You don't post pictures and pretend it was nothing. I'm not pretending, I said. You did enough of that for both of us. Gasps rippled. The tension spread like wine on a white tablecloth. Natalie's voice broke. I was trying. I was figuring it out. You mocked. You twisted. You drained, I said. And when I finally stepped away, you only noticed what you lost, not who you lost. Her lips parted. Words tried to form, but nothing came. Riley finally let go of my hand and stepped forward, gentle but firm. You're hurting. I get it. But this isn't grace. This is a goodbye that already happened. Don't rewrite it in front of strangers. Natalie stared at her for a long time. Her hands trembled slightly at her sides. And then she turned. No more words. Just the sound of her heels retreating through the vineyard grass. A few guests tried to pretend nothing happened. Jenny rushed over with a sympathetic look and a fresh bottle. Gavin gave me a pat on the shoulder, but no one said what we all felt. Natalie had walked into the middle of a piece I had finally earned. And in one outburst, she revealed what she truly hated, not my happiness, but that it no longer included her. I didn't expect her to come back. After the scene she made at the vineyard, I thought that was it, Natalie's curtain call. But I was wrong. The next evening, Riley and I were invited to Jenny's gallery opening. It was a modest little place on a side street in Midtown. Exposed brick walls, low jazz playing, wine glasses balanced in every hand. Local photographers, candlelight, soft voices. It was the kind of setting that felt safe, polished, quiet, until it wasn't. Riley and I stood near the back, in front of a black and white cityscape photo, chatting with Gavin. She was telling him about a design project she'd just picked up. He was halfway through a joke when I saw Jenny's face shift across the room. She was looking at the door. Then I turned. Natalie. She stepped inside like she owned the space. Burgundy dress this time. Hair done. That same icy posture. Shoulders pulled back. Chin raised. Eyes sweeping the room like she was looking for a fight to volunteer for. Riley stiffened beside me. You've got to be kidding. Jenny tried to intercept her, but Natalie brushed past. Don't. I said to Riley gently, stepping forward. She nodded, but I could feel her pulse through her fingers. I met Natalie halfway, just off the main floor, near a display of portrait prints. Her heels clicked like gavel strikes across the polished concrete. You need to leave, I said quietly. She tilted her head. I'm not here to make a scene. Then turn around and go before you do. She glanced behind me. Is she here? Of course she is. Can't have a celebration without your new accessory. Don't, I warned. But Natalie stepped past me, heading straight toward Riley like she had something rehearsed. I moved fast, standing between them. Natalie, I said, firmer now. Leave. She folded her arms. It's funny, you know. All those years you talked about your ideas. About building something that would matter. And I rolled my eyes because, well, who knew you'd actually pull it off? My stomach tightened. This isn't the time. But she wasn't done. She looked around the gallery, raising her voice just slightly. Turns out Trevor had real money in him after all. If I'd known that, maybe I wouldn't have let him go so easily. Silence dropped over the room like a guillotine. Gasps. Actual, audible gasps. Jenny covered her mouth. Gavin's eyes went wide. Riley didn't move, but her grip tightened around her wine glass. I stared at Natalie. You said that out loud, I said, in front of our friends. Her face twitched, like she hadn't meant to. No, what I meant was, you meant every word. Riley cut in, voice steady but cool. You didn't misspeak. You slipped. Natalie turned to her, eyes flashing. Don't act like you're some savior in flats and a midi dress. You showed up the second he got shiny. I showed up, Riley said, when he stopped hiding. There's a difference. Someone near the snack table murmured. Wow. Gavin whispered to Jenny. A couple walked toward the door, trying to make a graceful exit. The gallery wasn't big enough to contain what had just cracked open. I stepped closer to Natalie. You love the version of me that didn't believe in himself, I said. Because he made you feel smarter, safer, bigger. But you never loved me. You loved the ceiling you thought I'd never break through. She shook her head, eyes darting for backup. But no one moved. Jenny crossed her arms. Maybe you should leave. Natalie blinked. I'm being asked to leave? I have every right. You're embarrassing yourself, Gavin said gently. And it's hard to watch. She looked at Riley one last time. Rage, envy, desperation all tangled together. And said, he'll get bored of you. Riley didn't flinch. She just took my hand again, calm and grounded. That's the difference between you and me, she said. I don't need him to stay. I just respect that he chooses to. Natalie's chest heaved. Her jaw clenched. But the room had already turned. With one last glance, sharp, hollow, she spun and stormed out, the door swinging behind her like the final note of an unfinished song. No one followed. No one spoke for a long time. Then Jenny walked over, offering Riley a fresh glass. I looked down at our joined hands, then around the room. The people who now saw the truth. The people who didn't clap when Natalie left. And I realized, she hadn't just lost me. She'd lost the illusion that she was ever the one in control. For weeks after the gallery blew up, Natalie went silent. No texts. No unexpected visits. No middle-of-the-night emails. Just a quiet fade, like someone slowly dimming a light that had already stopped warming the room. But she wasn't entirely gone. She took to posting cryptic captions on Instagram. Photos of lattes with lines like, hot beverage. One day, you wake up and realize no one's coming to save you. Or selfies in fluorescent-lit office bathrooms tagged. Briefcase, corporate chains feel heavier when you're meant to fly. She never mentioned me. Never mentioned Riley. But the bitterness seeped through. The comments dwindled. Friends stopped replying. Some unfollowed entirely. Jenny told me she muted Natalie weeks ago. It's like she's broadcasting pain but refusing to let go of the mic. And honestly, I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt sorry. Meanwhile, life with Riley moved forward. Not rushed, just honest. We started talking about plans. Not dreams, not somedays, but actual dates, venues, ideas. She said, I've always pictured Napa. Golden Hills, long tables, no drama. And for once, I didn't feel the need to shrink the dream to fit someone else's comfort. Then let's do Napa, I said. Simple as that. Every step with her felt lighter than the last. We were building something new, not out of rebellion, but out of peace. The Napa sun dipped low, casting a golden haze over the vineyard. String lights swayed gently above long wooden tables where laughter rose between glasses of Pinot and plates of roasted peach crostini. Riley stood beside me, hand warm in mine, her dress catching the breeze just enough to make the moment feel unreal. The ceremony had been simple. Honest vows, a breeze through the vines, her whisper of "finally" when I slid the ring onto her finger. Now, the reception hummed with soft music and clinking glasses. Friends toasted us in turns. Ginny with a funny speech about fate and wine. Gavin nearly tearing up saying he'd never seen me this at ease. Then, as I turned to reach for Riley's glass, I saw her. Natalie, standing beneath a cypress tree, just beyond the lights, her frame barely outlined by the fading sun. Her arms were folded tight, but not in anger, just small. Her cheeks glistened, and even from across the lawn, I could tell she hadn't expected to cry. Our eyes met. Neither of us smiled. I didn't wave. She didn't move. She just looked. Not at me, at the life she once knew, at what I'd become without her. Then she turned, slowly, and walked away into the dusk without a word. I watched her disappear, and then I turned back to Riley, who looked up at me with that same calm strength she'd always offered me freely, without conditions. And it hit me. What I'd had before wasn't love. It was survival. But this was home. And that was the end of the story. I still think about what Riley said to Natalie that night. I don't need him to stay. I just respect that he chooses to. It shut down a storm with nothing but grace. But I wonder, did she do the right thing? Or should she have walked away and let Natalie self-destruct on her own? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit something real for you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe.